You laughed at me as the clown, the one you thought was harmless, the one you thought was only here for your amusement. You pointed, you mocked, you whispered behind fake smiles, thinking I couldn't hear. But I heard it all, every laugh, every insult, every time my name became your joke. You thought I was the entertainment at your circus, the one juggling pain while you clapped for my mistakes, the one dancing in the spotlight of your cruelty while you sat in the dark, safe in your shadows. But let me tell you something, clowns wear masks, and behind every mask is a truth you were too blind to see. You didn't realize that while you were laughing, I was learning. While you were mocking, I was building. While you thought you were breaking me, I was becoming unbreakable. You thought my silence meant weakness. You thought my patience meant stupidity. You thought my kindness meant I didn't see what you were doing, but I saw. I saw the side eyes. I saw the sarcasm. I saw the way you treated me like the punchline to your story. And yes, I smiled, I laughed along, I let you believe the mask, but here's the plot twist. You weren't laughing at a clown. You were laughing at the storm that was quietly gathering, the fire that was quietly burning, the nightmare that was waiting for the right moment to wake up. So laugh. Laugh at the clown if you must. But remember this, every laugh was a spark, and sparks create wildfires you can't control. The clown you mocked didn't stay in your circus. I walked out of the ring, wiped off the paint, and left the cheap stage lights behind. And when I did, something inside me shifted. I stopped performing for an audience that only wanted my downfall. I stopped trying to please the ones who fed off my pain. You thought you broke me with your laughter, but you didn't realize you were sharpening me. Every insult was a hammer. Every mockery was a blade. And while you thought you were tearing me apart, I was being reforged into something harder, darker, stronger. You laughed at the clown, but you weren't ready for what came next, because the clown transformed. The mask cracked, the colors faded, and what emerged wasn't a joke. It wasn't harmless. It was a nightmare that carried every scar, every wound, every betrayal, and turned them into weapons. See, nightmares don't wait for applause. They don't ask for approval. They haunt. They linger. They remind you that your cruelty has consequences. And that's what I became. Not the clown you dismissed. Not the joke you thought you controlled. I became the shadow you can't run from. And now every time you close your eyes, you'll remember the one you underestimated. You'll remember the day the clown stopped dancing and started hunting. Here's what you never understood. The clown you laughed at was bleeding under the makeup. You saw the smile, but you didn't see the nights spent crying in silence. You saw the jokes, but you didn't hear the whispers of self-doubt that echoed in my head. You saw the mask, but not the face beneath it, carrying pain you couldn't imagine. You thought your laughter was harmless, but every joke was a dagger. Every smirk was a bruise. Every whisper was another reminder that you never saw me as human, only as entertainment. And yet, while you mocked, I endured. While you pointed fingers, I carried weights you never knew existed. The funny thing is, your laughter didn't break me. It fueled me. The pain you never saw became the fire that changed me. You thought you were clever, but you were blind, because pain has a strange way of turning into power. Tears have a way of becoming armor, and wounds have a way of teaching lessons that laughter never could. So while you were laughing, I was transforming. While you were mocking, I was hardening. And when the curtain finally fell, the clown you thought was weak stepped out of the ashes, carrying something far more dangerous than a painted smile, an unshakable will. You thought the pain would silence me. Instead, it created the nightmare you can't escape. At first, you mistook my silence for defeat. You thought the clown had finally lost his voice. But silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the moment before the storm, the pause before the strike. While you were busy mocking, I went quiet. I didn't clap back. I didn't argue. I didn't try to prove myself to people who were already rooting for me to fail. Instead, I let the silence speak for me. And silence is the scariest sound to those who thrive on chaos. Because silence means you can't read me. Silence means you can't control me. Silence means you have no idea what comes next. And that's when fear sets in, when the laughter stops echoing, and all that's left is the sound of your own insecurities bouncing back at you. You wanted me to react. You wanted me to break. But instead, I grew still. Stillness became my shield, and patience became my weapon. And nothing unsettles an enemy more than realizing the target they mocked isn't running anymore. The clown you laughed at disappeared in that silence. And what came out wasn't a joke. It was a nightmare born in the shadows, sharpened by every moment I refused to waste on you. You thought you won when I went quiet, but that quiet was the sound of your downfall beginning. You laughed at the clown, but you weren't ready for the nightmare. See, nightmares don't ask for permission. They don't play by the rules. They don't entertain, they terrify. And that's what I became. The joke you thought you owned turned into the shadow that owns you. You thought I was harmless. You thought my role was to keep you amused, to absorb your cruelty and keep smiling. But I stopped playing. I stopped performing. And when I did, the energy shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't me standing in the spotlight. It was you caught in the glow of your own lies, exposed by the very stage you built to mock me. I became the consequence you never planned for, the face that haunts your sleep, the reminder that every word, every laugh, every sneer had a cost. You wanted a clown, but you created a monster, and monsters don't forget. Now your laughter feels different, doesn't it? It doesn't echo like victory. It trembles like fear, because you know the clown you mocked is gone, and what's left is something you can't predict, can't control, and can't defeat. You laughed at me once, but now I am the shadow in the corner of your eye, the weight in your chest when silence falls, the nightmare you never thought you'd wake up to. The real victory wasn't in clapping back. It wasn't in matching your insults or lowering myself to your game. The real victory was outgrowing the arena you tried to trap me in. You wanted me stuck in the clown suit, forever juggling pain for your amusement. But I took off the mask, walked out of your circus, and built my own stage. While you were busy laughing, I was building. While you were plotting, I was healing. While you were counting my failures, I was stacking lessons like bricks, creating walls too high for your whispers to climb. And that's what destroyed you in the end. Not revenge, not rage, but growth. Because nothing terrifies a mocker more than seeing the one they laughed at rise above them, untouched, unbothered, unstoppable. You stayed small, you stayed bitter, you stayed noisy, but I became bigger, stronger, louder in silence than you could ever be in chaos. And that silence, that was my crown. That was my victory lap. The clown you mocked didn't just survive. He leveled up. He transformed your cruelty into fuel, your laughter into lessons, your betrayal into bricks for a kingdom you'll never enter. You thought you wrote the ending to my story, but you were just a footnote in a chapter I outgrew. That's the real joke. You never had the power. Maybe this story feels familiar to you. Maybe you've been laughed at too, treated like the clown in someone else's circus, underestimated, mocked, and pushed aside. Maybe they thought you were weak because you stayed silent. Maybe they thought you were harmless because you refused to fight back. But hear me clearly, silence is not weakness. Patience is not stupidity. And being underestimated is not failure. It's preparation. Every laugh, every insult, every dismissal is fuel. You are not the joke they think you are. You are the storm they don't see coming. They may laugh now, but their laughter won't last, because clowns can transform, masks can come off, and the person they thought was just entertainment can rise as the nightmare that reminds them of what they lost, the chance to respect you when they had it. So don't let their laughter define you. Don't let their mockery chain you. Stand tall, stay silent if you must. Build in the shadows, grow in the silence, and when the time is right, step out, not as their clown, but as the nightmare they never imagined you could become. You are not weak, you are not foolish, you are not done. You are the plot twist in their story, the one they never saw coming. So here's the truth. They laughed at me as the clown. They mocked, they pointed, they thought the joke would last forever. But clowns don't stay clowns. Some of us learn to take off the paint, step out of the circus, and return as the nightmare you can't wake up from. You thought you buried me under your laughter, but I grew roots there. You thought you ended me with your mockery, but I used it as fuel. You thought I was a joke, but the punchline was never yours. It was mine. And now every laugh you threw at me has come back as an echo you can't escape. Every time you close your eyes, you'll remember the clown didn't die. He evolved. He became the very shadow that follows you, the silence that unnerves you, the nightmare that doesn't fade with morning light. They laughed at the clown, but the nightmare is eternal. And in the end, I had the last laugh.